Every employer and small business is looking for a bookkeeper with perfect work experience. But our bookkeepers are telling us that it's really difficult to get work experience.
In this episode, we are going to share our own personal journeys of gaining that experience and also talk about why we are building Hey Monica and how she is the solution that you need if you're struggling to get that experience.
Welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast, sponsored by Xero. Do you remember feeling like you weren't experienced enough?
I still do, I think. I don't think it ever goes away. I think we obviously get more experienced with age and we get more confident in certain areas, but then new things come along and someone will mention something you've never heard of before and that feeling comes straight back and you feel exactly how you did in your early 20s.
Yeah. Or you just completely retrain and then you become a bookkeeper and then you're like, oh, I've never done this before.
Yeah, I do. When I hear that someone is retraining, I'm really excited for them, but I also remember and know that you have all that excitement when you have the books in front of you, when you've got the tutor, when you've got the lesson, you've got the exam to go ahead for, and you think that when all of that is done, that you are a finished product. And then this lightning bolt out of the blue comes and you're like, oh, hang on, I don't actually know how to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the comments, the questions, the statements in the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club all the time. I'm newly qualified, but I don't have any work experience and I can't get a job without work experience. What do I do?
Yeah, I know. I remember getting my first sort of accounting job. I worked in local government and I remember joining the ACCA because that was what everyone in our office did. And I remember actually even just having a conversation about which professional body should I be training with, and everyone saying, well, we're doing this. And I was thinking, oh, should I do ACCA or CIMA or SIPFA, which is like the local authority training. And we had this big sort of conversation about it. And I remember you got this sort of pack and it had all these A4 books. They weren't glossy, they were like really matte paper, like I can still picture it, and they came in this like plastic folder, and I can remember looking through them and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that exam and then I'm going to learn this and that'll be really interesting. But I don't think there was really, like when I was working through those exams in that 4 years, and I was in that job for the whole time pretty much, I think, I don't ever really remember doing anything in the book that was what was in my job.
No, and that is the problem. And that is the problem. There's such a gap between exams and real life work. Very much exactly like school. You know, school doesn't necessarily prepare us for any of the jobs that we end up doing unless you become a teacher. If you become a teacher, you know exactly what you're in for.
Yeah.
And you've been in there listening and learning and, oh yeah, I know what I need to do. But other than that, there is so much to learn, and you only get to learn it and feel confident and gain that experience by being in it. And to get that opportunity to be allowed to have that experience is such a privilege. And a lot of the time you feel like you need to know someone that's going to give you that opportunity.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We spoke a while ago on the podcast about work experience, like school work experience, the bit you did in year 10. And a friend of mine went and got a job at an accountancy practice because someone down the road was working in this accountancy practice. And I really do believe that. I think it is like who you know, and your network is so crucial, whether it's about finding clients or finding a job or anything.
Finding experience.
Yeah.
You know, we've spoken to Steph recently on the podcast, and she was looking for work experience, and because she was in the collective and I needed somebody and I'd seen how she was, I was able to give her an opportunity because she'd never worked in a practice. So she was able to get that. But that was because of a connection, not because of a CV. It was because I knew her.
Do you think that because when someone comes and works for you, like let's say you're their first employer, they look at you in a certain way where you've got this real responsibility as a kind of role model for them. Because I really looked up to people I worked with in my first job.
Oh, yeah, me too. Some people I looked down on as well and thought, how have you got into the position, you know?
Tell me those stories.
Yeah. No, just some people, you know, I did have a mentor as an accountancy apprentice. He was lovely, he was very kind, and he used to tell me what to do, but he never told me why we were doing it. And it frustrated me because he knew how to tell me what the answer was, but I didn't understand the bigger purpose. And actually, I don't think he knew it. If I really look back, he was that definite, you know, he was sitting there doing his tea accounts. He had his little adding machine, his ruler and pen, and everything was just so. And I felt very calm around him, and I felt that he wanted to teach me, but he taught me what to do and how to do the debits and credits, but never told me why.
Yeah.
And that bit was really missing. So I think sometimes work experience needs to be a bit messy.
Yeah.
So that you pick up on all the bits that you're not going to be told in a nice, perfect, linear way.
Yeah. Oh gosh, and that got me thinking about, you need lots of people to learn from as well, because my equivalent of that I had in my first job, I keep going back to my first job because I think it's the time I really did not know anything about accounts. And there was a guy who was like my mentor. He wasn't my boss or line manager. He was like the person who, I don't know, helped me. He was the person who told me to pay into my pension. Like, thank you for that. But he had this massive stack of papers on his desk, and it was almost like a running joke that this person always had papers on his desk. But it made me think, oh, well, he must be really important because he keeps loads of really important pieces of paper on his desk. But then
he may not have known how to use the shredder. But it was your perception.
But that's your perception, and you like decide, like, this person must have been given the responsibility of supporting me for some reason. They're a really good mentor or something, and therefore I should see what I can learn. Like, I really was impressionable. One of my best friends, who I'm still great friends with now, who worked with me in that first job, I remember her saying, oh, there was a lady in the office called Di, and she was like, oh my gosh, you're always like trying to be like Di. And I was like, but I literally have got no other role models. Like, that she's a woman who's successful in an accountancy role. I need to look at this, and if this is what successful looks like, I've got to try and emulate this. So I feel like there's such a responsibility as anyone who's a mentor, particularly to young, impressionable people, but also on, like, there's a responsibility as that mentor and role model, but there's also this like responsibility of us as the trainee to know that that person's way of doing it may not be your way, or it might not align with the way you want to show up at work, and you need to look for other models of how that can be done as well.
Don't you find the whole mentoring situation at work a bit strange? As in, somebody gets qualified and they're more qualified than someone else, and then they're told, well, you've got to mentor that person. They didn't get into that job to be a teacher or a mentor. They want to focus on their own career, and they want to be mentored by someone else. And I think this is the other issue we have with work experience, is no one has the time or energy to spend time with somebody showing them the ropes.
Well, we're not trained to be managers.
No.
So, like, I think so many people get promoted into management positions or leadership positions, but they've never been given the skill, just like you haven't got the work experience skills of whatever you learnt in a book. You also haven't got the leadership skills because we're not taught that. I went on a presentation skills course once. Does that mean I'm suddenly a presenter?
Well, you are now. But yeah, it's strange. And actually sometimes just because someone's in a management position doesn't mean they know how to get the best out of you, or even if they could, they might not want to. They might not want to have you following them around and things like that. I've got, my son's just about to start an apprenticeship, and my daughter's doing her apprenticeship, and they are great roles because you have the college side of things, and then they get to do day to day. And the kind of lessons that I've spoken to both of them about is about things that have nothing to do with their job and nothing to do with what they learnt at school. It's about being punctual.
Yeah.
It's about communicating if you cannot, if you're stuck in traffic, or if you've got a doctor's appointment that's coming up, or you need to have some holiday, whatever, communication is key. Staying on top of your emails and making sure that you've read things properly, offering to make people cups of tea. Grace now does the bacon sandwiches order on a Thursday, ready for Friday morning. Keeping the kitchen clean, doing those extra bits. Can you take the bin out? Yes, you. And I say to them, you are there to learn, but in exchange, what can you do to make your mentors' lives easier, so that they have that headspace to be able to share that with you?
Yeah, I think even if you're not the junior in the office, like, there's stuff from real life that's going to really help you to be, I suppose it's like taking you from the book smart into the valuable employee. One of my best friends has just qualified as a solicitor, as she's been training for years, and in her 40s, and it is intense. I think it took her 6 years, and at the end they did these. It was really interesting actually to learn about it. They do this exam as a solicitor. It's called SQE2, and you have to go into. You've basically learnt loads of the law. So I'm just going to show her much I don't know what she does.
No.
She's learnt loads of the law.
Please don't let her watch this episode. She's going to go.
I'm really proud of you, Becky. I did
never listen to anything I've said.
And so she had all these different areas of law she had to learn. And then there were different things you have to go to in real life. You would go and speak to a judge and you make some kind of application for something. And so they're taught in their exams by their lecturers. You've got to learn these 14 particular things. One of those is going to be the thing you have that comes up in your exam. So you're given all the paperwork, like a random selection, just like bookkeeping. You've got this random selection of bizarre paperwork from a client. You've got to make sense of it all in 30 minutes. And then you are taken in silence to, and I imagine, I didn't ask her exactly, but I think everyone sort of sat at their desk. She said she could hear when everyone opened this pack, everyone did the, oh God, sort of sound of, I haven't prepared for this. And you read it all, try and make sense of it. Then you're walked in silence into a room where there's an actor. I love this. We should totally do this in our profession. There's an actor who is acting as
judge?
I think they're the client.
Oh, okay.
And so they have some information, and you have to go into them and ask the right things so that they reveal the right answers that you then need, so you can go and say you've got 15 minutes then in front of the judge. And to the judge, you have to make the application for whatever this thing is. And so you have to be ready to present your argument, having absorbed the information, know the structure, so know technically what you've got to do. But they're not just scored on how well they deal with this application they're making to the judge and the technicalities of that and whether they've said the right thing or not. One of the things might be a bail application, so for example. But also, you're also scored on how you interact with the client in the room and put them at ease. So as the actor is scoring you on how well you've helped them understand the situation, whether you've asked for the right information, whether you've put them at ease, whether you've made them feel comfortable, whether you're polite and professional. Oh my gosh, it's so good. We don't do anything like that.
No.
No one says you're going to learn this stuff in a textbook, and then some client is going to ring you up who's kind of a bit annoyed because, I don't know, they've got to pay more tax than they expected, and you're going to explain to them what's happened. We don't do that in our exam.
No kind of role play, anything, ever.
No.
Which is why we built Hey Monica.
Well, it is. Yeah.
Because that's exactly what is needed. In order to build confidence, you need to practice. And even it may be a case, in work experience, you don't get to do what you need to do to be able to do it later on. Sorry, there was lots of do's. Yeah. But, maybe you aren't allowed to answer the phone. Or maybe, there's barriers around some. I mean, I remember that there'd be meetings going on and I'd think, what are they talking about? That's not for me. So even when you work and you're trying to get that work experience, you're not having access to everything.
No.
And that's why, we wanted to build Hey Monica to enable you to try everything out that you possibly can talk to a client, but also get support from a real life mentor.
Yeah.
AI real life mentor, but somebody that will have a real time
Yeah.
conversation with you.
Yeah.
So
Because
that
it's like
otherwise-
it's work readiness, isn't it? You know, in that solicitor example, the people who are going to succeed are going to do better. And, you know, my friend said this, the people who did the best in that exam were the people who had real life experience, the apprenticeship style experience of already working in the job. They weren't just learning, they were doing some stuff in real life. It was so much easier for the people to do well in those exams. Let's say that was a simulated real life experience, because they knew how an office worked. They knew what to say on the phone. They knew how to put a client at ease. And I think this is the stuff where the bookkeeping exams and the accounting exams don't get us ready for that aspect. And the only way you can learn that is on the job. But even if you haven't got work experience of being on the job, you have got experience of life where you will have used the phone or sent an email or spoken to someone who's a bit angry or had to negotiate. So we have got these skills. It's just we haven't applied them in this space. And because we haven't applied them around the technicalities of bookkeeping, we feel inferior.
And I think that is the key. What do we need to know to be work ready? I think we get this jumbled up. We think we need to know everything.
Yeah.
We think we need to have the answer to every question that's ever come, and that's certainly not true. We were talking earlier today about, you know, what kind of advice would we give people? You know, so pick up the phone often.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the question's going to be, but you could always have an answer of, great question, let me take down your details, I will get back to you as soon as I have the answer. And if you get practiced in not having the answer, but providing the next step, the next solution, a time frame, communicate, that's actually all the skills you really need to know in communication.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation, though, where you've like been working with a client and they work in some industry you're just not familiar with, and then you've got to answer the phone and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, like what do you do then? Because that's what makes us not want to pick the phone up, isn't it?
Oh goodness, yeah. I worked in a marquee business and I didn't realise how much like construction it was. Obviously there's a build and a takedown, and there'd be lots of skips, and there'd be Moffat trucks, and there'd be 3.5 ton that, and something.
What's a Moffat truck?
It's a bit of the truck that sits on the back of a big lorry so that you can use it to take pallets off and you take it with you.
Okay.
I know. And there was big warehouses, and there was talking about so many words that I'd never heard about. And I remember they said, oh, Jo, could you get a switch around on that skip? And I'm like, And I'm like, what's a switch around on a skip? But basically it's where the skip company drop off one skip and take away the other one because it's full up.
Yeah.
And then they were asking me all these questions about, the size of the skip and, the postcode and how much is already in the other skip, and is there any type of like things that shouldn't be in the skip. And I didn't have the answers, but I kind of just said to the lady when I phoned, I've never phoned a skip company before in my life. Can you take it slowly with me and help me and tell me what I need to tell you, and I'll go and find out and then I'll come back. And she was really good, but that was because I was much older at that time, whereas before, and I see it with my children, I mean, they're pretty good, but if the phone rings, we don't have a home phone.
No.
We don't have a home phone.
No.
But I remember something my mum made me do. My mum was working in office furniture sales, and she would make us, in summer holidays, do 2 or 3 hours of cold calling a day.
Oh, I love your mum.
Yeah. I used to have to phone up and ask for the facilities manager. I didn't even know what a facilities manager was. Even now, I'm like, I remember there was a script. 15.
Oh my God, I love your mum.
Yeah, we had to do shifts. But she was leveraging. I'm now thinking about it, right? She was getting paid. She'd put me in there first, then my sister would go in afterwards. And it was mostly summer holidays, and she'd try to look after the little ones, and we were doing her job for us. She'd written us out a script.
Nice.
We'd have the yellow pages, and we'd have to go through and like make a list and note, and we were sending out brochures. Nice. And we just have to get the name of the right person, the address we had to send it to, and we write that down, and then it gets sent out. Love it. My mum made me go to breakfast meetings when I was in my late teens, and she taught me things about refreshing your makeup after lunch. go and have a little zhuzh, she'd say.
Yeah.
It's time for a zhuzh, bit of perfume. You know, the kind of things that if you don't go into a workplace, obviously you don't need to do that. But, you know, she was trying to say, like, go and get yourself presentable. There's an etiquette. You want to feel good. You want to, you know, you've just eaten a cheese sandwich. Go make sure that you've got nothing in your teeth and make sure you look fresh and go and brush your hair again because you've been out. Yeah. That kind of thing. And so I was lucky. She did take us quite a lot of times to work, and I remember doing like coffee runs for her and stuff. I've always worked, but I didn't realise. I don't think we allow ourselves to build our confidence up enough to say that everything that you've ever done, whether it's babysitting, whether it's becoming a parent or anything, all of these things give us skills that are applicable to the job that we are doing. But we kind of put everything in a box and see them all as completely separate items, but they're not.
So what you're talking about with your mum saying to you, go and have a zhuzh, and that's hilarious because that we actually say that, and that's where that's come from. Now I understand. This is like your appearance and how you show up. When we're talking to bookkeepers who are self-employed, we talk about personal brand, which is totally true. But I don't think that's a word or a phrase that we really talk about in an employment sense. What we might know it as is reputation. It's like, are you known as the person who is helpful, willing to volunteer to make the call or run and get the coffee, because inevitably that is part of like the junior role, or are you always presentable? Can you be relied upon to show up ready for a meeting?
Yeah, and it's that, again, a bit like personal brand and reputation. It's what do people think about you when you're not in the room? And what lingers around, and what do people say to other people about you? And this comes down to values, and it comes down to how you absolutely show up and whether you can be trusted to be consistent and someone to go, I'm certain that they can do this because they always do it this way. So I think those are really, that's nothing to do. None of those things you just mentioned has anything to do with the actual job.
No.
It's your personality. And actually, a lot of the times, young people need to learn those skills because they haven't been taught necessarily those skills. They may have been taught lots of it at home, but not always.
I think there are plenty of people who won't have learnt that. It's going to depend so much on like what your parents do for a living as well. Like I think about the things my kids are learning to do. My daughter's in year 3, and I went into school and ran a session about entrepreneurship, and we were like, had this little toy car wash. We were washing the cars, and I gave my daughter I was like, you're running the business. What do you think your job is? And we were asking everyone, like, wash cars. And I was like, well, no, you've got to do marketing, and you've got to make sure people want their cars washed and make a sign and all of this. And I was like, she knows this because we talk about entrepreneurship all the time, and she knows what profit is. And, you know, there are things that she'll know. And there are things that she won't know because that her parents don't do things that other kids in the class are exposed to.
Yeah.
But I think as parents, we've got a real responsibility because at the moment, the way school is, and we know this firsthand, anyone who's watching this or listening who has ever gone into a new role and not felt ready, it's because we are trained some technical work that isn't always really what it's like in real life. We're definitely not taught the work readiness sort of toolkit of how do you write an email, or what do you wear to work, or I don't know, like what do you do? What do you do if someone puts you in an uncomfortable situation? Like we've got to be honest and realistic here. Like, and not everything isn't always like rosy. So how do you deal with those difficult people at work?
And it is those skills. A lot of it is around personal development as well, and knowing yourself more and being more confident in the person that you are, which again might come with age and experience, and learning from other people. I think we all have a responsibility to develop ourselves, our growth mindset, how we handle confrontation, all of these things. And yes, we may have had completely emotionally immature parents, and you may have learned some things and how you deal with this. You think, oh, I see someone else acting in a workplace and that's not appropriate how mum or dad reacted, and so you need to relearn. But it's about, if you can take ownership for that and assume that you're not already a finished product that just doesn't know a load of stuff, and just think, we're never a finished product. I'm willing to learn, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, maybe attend events. I mean, the biggest event I've attended that changed my life was Tony Robbins. That was back in 2007. Unleash the Giant Within. Awake. Yeah, Awake.
How did you end up going to that then?
My mum had heard about it. I think it was reselling. So people used to buy the tickets and then resell them. Oh. And she'd been offered one. And we were right at the back, but I remember Natalie Imbruglia was there in one of the front rows, which I was very impressed about. And it was just amazing. Like the first time I'd ever invested, I think it was about £300 a ticket, which was a lot for a 4-day event. It was up at Excel. I had like 2 tiny kids then. Grace was just about like a year old. I had to sort out childcare and everything. And I remember walking back through the door and Paul, my husband, saying to me, "You've changed. You're like an alien."
Ooh.
And I was like, "What?" And he was like, your whole personality has changed. And I was like, "I know. And I want it to." And I did. I remember completely changing. And that's when I became like, I want to absorb more of this personal development. I'm not a finished product. I've got so much more to do. And it was exciting. But I think it helped me build my confidence because I could control my mind and my thoughts. And I didn't have, I knew that I could always sort anything out if I needed to.
Oh my gosh, I wish I went to that day with you. I think that would have like completely changed my 20s.
Yeah, it was really good. We did this thing called like mirroring, and I actually had a moment with a lady, and we had to stand and stare at each other, and I saw everything she was thinking in her mind. And afterwards, I went away and told someone exactly. I remember it. She was standing on stage. I can see it clearly now. She standing on stage and she was singing, and her parents were in the front row. I'd never met her. I didn't know who that, but I knew that was her parents in the front row. And then it turned into a wedding, and I was, this is really weird. And that's exactly, she was playing the story through her mind, and and it made me realise the power of the mind if you're so connected. And that was all about NLP and mirroring people. Yeah. So that gave me confidence. If I was ever like, I don't know how to react, or I'm not getting close with someone, things like that. It gave me like tools to use.
Well, I mean, we're mirroring right now, but I think that's one of those things. We don't know this. Like, you know, we've mentioned talking to people on the phone, email. Like, there are lots of elements of body language that are really important for relationship building and conversation, that if we don't realise that, and we don't know that we have to compensate for those bits of body language missing from an email, for example, we might not get the tone right. Like, you know, if you go and write a business email in the style, like often, you know, if we're just quickly going, "Oh yeah, I got that," like we might do that at home to, I don't know,
like a WhatsApp or something, you might answer in chat mode.
Yeah, or abbreviations. You can't do that in a work email. No. But you don't know this stuff until you know this stuff. And I think that like having people to learn from, or asking questions, or reading, or watching YouTubes, or, you know, finding something that's going to help you to perform better at work, to be the person you want to be, is part of the development journey.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think a lot of people misunderstand, you know, we talk about becoming a 6-figure bookkeeper. We want you to use your bookkeeping skills to earn the money you want to earn for your life, for your family, for your aspirations. And whether that is building a business, or whether it is working for someone else, or subcontracting, we are not judging. We have done it all. And I think we've had lots of people saying, "Oh, but aren't you only about..." We're like, no, we want you to be confident and to do what's right for you. And running a business is not right for everyone. We are not making people run businesses if it's not right for them. If they want to run a business, and we can definitely support them. But we've done it all. And I think all these different things and experiences have helped build our confidence. And but I don't think I'm ever done with my work experience.
No. And I think that what we've done, we've built a piece of software in the last few months, really. It's been available for the last few months, called Hey Monica. It's designed to be a work experience solution, a simulation of delivering the client work that you haven't had the opportunity to do, because your textbook learning is very different to the way that paperwork is presented to you by a real client, we would like it to have more interaction with the client in there as well, because I think there's very much a communication piece that we need to work on. But we can get you work ready through the tasks that you need to do. So we can turn your textbook learning into what the actual work looks like through Hey Monica. And the next step is thinking, okay, well, I know how to deliver the work now. Now I need to believe in myself and know the other work readiness stuff. How do I phone someone? How do I email someone? And this is all the stuff that we've got to develop next in Hey Monica.
And we're working on it.
Well, I've loved speaking to you about work experience. I feel like we're always all on a journey, but whatever you're doing, something new is going to come up. And if you'd like to find out more about how Hey Monica can support you in your work experience and building your confidence with your bookkeeping and accountancy skills, head over to heymonica.com, where you can try out Adele, our sole trader scenario, and you can sign up for the full software with all of the scenarios for whatever you want to practice. And it's just £50 plus VAT per month.